see the kind of industries that are opening up.
This is Local Biz Now with Joe Vagnone, where your business matters. Local Biz Now.
You have to determine what is working, what isn't working.
Joe Vagnone is a respected business broker, helping individuals buy and sell businesses. Joe has successfully owned and operated many companies in a variety of industries. This is Local Biz Now. Because your business matters.
Yeah. You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina, coming to you live from Burners Cigar Studio. Burners Cigars is the home of fine premium cigars and cigar smokers throughout the world. Great people, premium cigars. Life is good at Burners Cigars. Go on by there, Birkdale Village, and also the new location in Denver on Highway 16. Tell them Joe sent you. Your first cigar is on me. We hope to inspire, inform, and entertain you, because that's what we do here at News Talk WSIC. This is 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM. I am Joe Vagnone, and this is Local Biz Now, where your business matters. Every month we have a co-host. This month is no exception. We have Michael Clegg. He is CEO, managing partner of QWorks Group. He also is a master at leadership and leadership coaching and keynote speaking. Michael, my friend, thank you for being here, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
So, you're not allowed to just show up here. You understand? You gotta bring something. You understand? You got to carry your weight.
That's right.
Are you ready to do that today?
I think so.
Because I'm going to challenge you today, because I don't do this often, but I'm going to bring our guest in early.
Love it.
Because he's got a big head, the big head's not the word I'm looking for. He's got what's the word I'm looking for a smart person? It's not big head. It's,
big brain?
No. Well, he does have a big brain. He does, but
he's got a lot to offer.
He does. I wasn't trying to pick on you, Chuck, but it is Chuck Cooper. He is the author and president and founder of Whitewater Consulting. Those of you that know me know that I think a lot of Chuck. Thank you, my friend, for being here. I appreciate it.
It is so great to be back.
And so Julie and I are still laughing about the last time you were on the show.
If we only had instant replays, because I'd like to see that.
Yeah. He was singing at Christmas time.
And I can't sing.
He was singing at Christmas time. So we're surprised that he showed back up again. We're not sure he's going to do that.
You left me hanging.
That's right. So not big head, big brain, Chuck.
Okay,
That's what I was after.
All right.
I didn't want you all to think I was making fun of Chuck. Big brain Chuck wrote a book, and I cannot wait for us to talk about it. Chuck, we're going to talk about it in the second half of the show.
That'd be great.
Okay. Chuck Cooper wrote a book, The Family Business Blueprint, Creating Your Succession Roadmap. It is an exceptional book that details what and why you should do while you are planning and growing your business in anticipation of sooner or later selling it. Chuck, we talk about this often. I don't know if people get it. Sooner or later, you're not going to be running your business, right? I mean, we are getting old, right?
That's right.
Sooner or later, somebody else will be running your business and or dealing with your customers. Do you want to plan for it, or do you just want to guess? So we're going to get into that.
That'll be so much fun.
Yeah. Before we do that, Michael, for the two people out there that don't know, okay, what is QWorks Group all about?
So QWorks Group is an executive placement firm. We've been around for 23 years, specialize in German-American companies, and which entails that we end up working with a lot of companies that are in the manufacturing, engineering space, a lot of automation, and it's. I mean, we talk about it every week that I'm here. It's very surprising how many German-American companies are actually here in the Charlotte area.
So you just stepped right into it.
Yep.
You stepped right into where the question I want to ask you.
All right.
Talk about automation.
Sure.
How is that changing personnel issues? Because I'm not heavy into manufacturing, right? So I see on TV the big orange arms working like crazy. Yes. That's got to be, each orange arm has got to be a person, I assume, no longer needed for that.
Multiple people.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's it's exciting and scary at the same time. I think automation, the best way that I have had a lot of people that are more smart than I am, you
mean like Chuck?
Guys like Chuck. The way that it was explained to me is that things that are repeatable are getting automated first, right? So if you think about your job duties, if you're doing the same thing day after day after day, chances are it's going to get automated at some point in the near term and likely before the end of the decade, if not sooner. If you look at a lot of the data, they say by 2027, I think it's like 120 million US jobs are going to have to be upskilled because of automation. That's like frightening. So,
yeah.
And once again, exciting at the same time. I mean, before we went on air, we were talking about AI and the ability for it to write books and all of the other things that come with AI, and not even to mention the business side of it, what about the healthcare side of it and all the benefits that are coming. So automation is here. We either embrace it or you don't. I think it was Jack Welch said, if the world outside is moving faster than the world inside, the end is near. So for some people, the end is near.
So this reminds me of probably about 2 years ago when I talked to Julie and told her, listen, we somehow we got to automate this, right? You know, when the emails that come in, somehow we got to create some automation. And I remember feeling the frustration she was having. You know, I do a good job of qualifying these clients, right? I do a good job of taking in a good, proper manner, making sure that when, for us, it's about timing. You know, you acquire on a business, you want to be able to get back to them as soon as possible. And it wasn't until we finished our new CRM system and the automation was put in place that she immediately got it, which was all of the front end has to be done, pressure on her, the job of receiving inquiries is now automated, which doesn't mean she has less to do. It means there is more opportunity to do stuff. So this automation is not a negative.
No.
It really is a positive of let's automate what you don't want to do over and over and over and over again. And let's let you focus on stuff you like to do. And if you see it like that, then you can embrace it. But if you don't see it like that, then it's like this hard pushing this rock up the hill.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even gone public with this yet. I guess now I am, but
drum roll, please.
I've been in the process of building and developing an AI. I just call it simply Clegg clone. And at some point, that's going to be an agent on my website. It's going to be able to answer questions. People that are interested in coaching will be able to go to that and get a taste of what it would be like working with me. And you know, I don't know at this point, like I'm still trying to determine what the use case for this thing is going to be.
Right.
And that's the crazy part about it is it's unlimiting. It really is.
You know, it's funny. It's funny because, well, let's take a break when we come back, because I can tell you when Julie and I first started using this automation, it was a minimal, let's just have them send an email back kind of thing. But now we're like, okay, can we get them to send 3 emails? Can we get them to remind us stuff? And so it's changed just a bunch. Let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk some more about it. You are listening to Local Biz Now, where your business matters. We'll be right back. So she's got your website on Facebook.
Okay.
And Michael, she has got your Leadership Squared website.
Sounds good.
On Facebook as well.
Sounds good. See if my wife's making fun of me yet.
Yeah, I pulled it out and put it back in again. I mean, I'm a technical genius. Okay.
Which was it was one of the talk shows that used to do like a little sign or something to tap the side of his nose or something to tell his family he was thinking of them or something when he was live on air.
Oh, goodness. I remember seeing
I mean, it was, I feel like an 80s thing. So, Kelly.
Yeah.
Julie said she put the Q Works on there as well. Just
Great.
so you know.
Thanks, Julie.
So have we got your shorts already from last week? Have they been put up yet?
I have not looked. Not sure. I'll check though.
So you heard, you know the whole short story, right?
I do.
I told
Yes,
you that already.
yes.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm really trying to figure out what to do with this Clegg clone.
There's a lot of opportunity.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Is this tool? And I've uploaded once again.
Okay.
Stands me.
That's a lot of commercials. Is it? I was getting ready to say maybe Justin's really selling some commercials today. Who y'all got selling commercials? Because other than Justin, I don't know anybody selling.
So with your, did you do like FAQs and stuff like that?
You got a whole team of
Sounds like
salespeople.
you're just very superficial. But
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't met one salesperson.
in my group coaching. I've had them just test it out. Hey, when you have a question for me, use the clone first. Yeah. And then I get an alert if
All right.
it's not enough.
You boys ready to go?
Good response or does a response. Good to go. So it's like so far, I mean, it's missing some things, but
you could be able to tweak it.
every month, like exponentially grows. It's crazy.
Yeah. #1 live talk business show in North Carolina, coming to you from Burner Cigar Studios. Great people, premium cigars. Life is good at Burner Cigars. Go by there, see them in Brookdale Village and also on Highway 16 in Denver. I am Joe Vagno, and this is Local Biz Now, where your business matters. My co-host for the entire month is Michael Clegg. He is a managing partner of Q Works Group. He also is an exceptional keynote speaker, and we call that Leadership Squared. Do I have that right?
You do.
Okay. And also my buddy, whether he will admit it or not, Chuck Cooper is here. He's the author and president and founder of Whitewater Consulting. He has just just written a new book, which we're going to talk about in the second half of the hour. Chuck, thank you for being here, buddy.
It's great to be here.
So, Michael, you're not allowed to just show up here. You know, you got to bring something.
Sure.
What you got for us?
Let's
What,
talk.
what would you want to? What would you like to talk about today?
Let's talk culture. You know, I had something else in mind after last week, but I think this dovetails pretty well in. As I'm sitting in traffic in Charlotte, which everyone knows, there's plenty of that.
Both of you guys have driven a nice distance to
did.
get here today,
We
gentlemen. So I
absolutely
appreciate
did.
it.
We did, and it was interesting. I was listening to some of the NFL head coach. They were introducing the new Jets head coach, and they were playing some clips from the Washington Commanders head coach. And in both cases, all they talked about was culture. And while I think, and Chuck, you would probably agree with this in the business that you're in, it's becoming a buzzword. Everyone wants a great culture, but I'm not sure that people really know how to do that well yet. And
I know small business people don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if it happens in a positive way, it's just by mistake.
yeah,
It's very difficult, actually, to create that. The personality of the owner is the only thing that seems to drive that culture, from my perspective.
so how do you just this is probably a question for you then. Now you're on the interview stool, right?
I got you. I can
You know,
handle it.
as you're helping people or thinking through brokering, buying and selling businesses, how do you measure that in the process?
Yeah, well,
Especially if it's owner driven.
right. The problem is what the owners think is normally not what's actually happening.
Fully agree.
That's the problem. And so in my world, I have to softly let them know that it isn't what they think it is.
Yeah.
And you do that through continuously asking questions. As I am measuring the culture, one of the places I go, now I'm a business broker, right? So I'm the guy looking from the outside in, and I'm assuming I'm a buyer, right? And the internet gives me a great, looking glass, microscope, reviews and things like that, and how they respond to the views, or if they let managers respond to those reviews. That gives me a good snapshot of where we're going to go with this and whether it's going to be a positive or negative scenario. So does that answer your question for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, because if you think about it, I guess the value of a business really is when the owner's not in it, right? Because if you're buying a business from someone and the owner is a certain percentage of the revenue or the impact of the company.
The less the owner works, the more the value of the company.
I want to get to that. Be that kind of owner.
That's right. That's right.
That's
when
where
we're going to talk
go.
about it in Chuck's book this second half.
Love that.
But to your point, I don't see culture being something that is sort of planned and strategically thought about. I can see them think about marketing. I can see them talk about a lot of things in their small business, but culture is not one of them in a big way. Chuck, is that a fair statement?
It is. And that's, I think you guys are hitting on something that's really important, and that is when you look at small and mid-sized business owners, there is no clarity around what is culture. It's just like employee engagement. There is no real clarity around how you go about measuring that.
And, when I've sold some businesses, some pretty successful businesses, well, I'm telling you, the employees were so happy that the business was sold. They did not like their owner.
Yeah.
They didn't like their boss. Or the guy had been there for so long, he was so cynical that they were afraid to even go to him and have a conversation. They didn't want to hear what they knew was coming back was this negative feel. And so when a new owner comes in, they were like cheering, this is great. Hey, sorry to see you leave, Bob, but this is great, and so I see a lot of that in this modern era, where it used to be they would be tears for the owner leaving. You know what I mean? What's the world going to be like now that Joe's gone? That's not happening anymore, because I think they really, the older generation has not done a good job of this, quote, culture.
Absolutely. I mean, Chuck mentioned employee engagement, which is a big problem. And when you think of 30% of employees are engaged, and I think it's closer to 20% who are considered actively engaged. These are the people that you want to promote. These are the people that you want in front of your clients. These are the people that makes your business run, really, truly. And so a culture, which most people don't even understand the definition of culture. Most people, you can feel culture, when it's a good culture, but how do you measure culture? And that's where I think most organizations go wrong, because most people have mission and vision statements and core values and all those things.
Well,
but
I'll tell you,
on a wall somewhere that no one ever talks about.
Chuck, we don't have a lot of that in small business, do we? The whole mission statement so even if you did that, it might help. At least,
because culture is just a set of beliefs and values. That's all culture really is. Culture ultimately is what you tolerate, right? So I always use the example.
Have you heard that before?
I believe I have.
I have not. That's interesting. Culture is what you tolerate.
If you tolerate bad behavior, that's where your culture goes, right? I mean, it's just like anything else, right? It's about standards and boundaries, and your culture, right, should have standards and boundaries, but ultimately the culture should be the blueprint for what good looks like, right? So if you have core values, what I recommend, because by the way, if we have any listeners that are in human resources, they'll probably cringe when I say this, because when I speak in front of them and do this, they cringe, but you can actually measure culture objectively. And most people do not believe that. They believe culture is very subjective. However, if you actually define your core values, not only define the core values, but give a statement for what good looks like, give some behavior examples, because remember, culture is about behaviors. Now you've got a blueprint and boundaries for what good does look like. And so that is the beginning of culture. And you just measure that. Like I measure it quarterly in our organization. It's a plus, minus, or a minus. Plus means that employee demonstrates that core value. Plus minus means sometimes they demonstrate that core value. And a minus means they do not demonstrate that core value. If they do not demonstrate that core value, they have 30 days to course correct. And
I've never heard this. Have you heard this, John?
I like this. I like where he's going with this, because I think that is
it sounds
very easy to quantify.
Yeah, I've never been able to quantify that
Is
at
it
all.
perfect? No, but it's objective, right? And instead of being subjective. And
so if I kick Julie, that would be a negative.
That would likely go into the minus category.
But if I sent her a nice note, nice job on this, that would be a positive.
I would think you're probably a bunch of pluses, but we'll have to look in the
Do
comments.
you
see where
really think
Julie-
I'm going to be kicking Julie?
No, I think she might be kicking you, but
Okay,
so
that's
my-
interesting.
So, Michael, with your scale you use, the employees or maybe your direct reports, do they have the opportunity to score you that same scale?
they absolutely should be. It should be 360 across
So
the board.
he's scaling action, correct?
Yeah,
That's what he's. So, are you familiar with the book Culture by Design?
I'm not.
David Friedman out of Philadelphia wrote the book, and he basically is talking.
Philadelphia is a bad city for me, by the way, being a Washington fan. But anyways, continue
Okay.
on.
Sorry about that.
We'll call him Smart Chuck from now on.
I think that's a book that I reference a lot when I'm
Yeah.
talking with business owners about culture, because he
Yeah.
talks about the specific values and then identifying the actions that support those values.
Yeah.
So, okay, guys. So if I take what Michael's saying, right, and actions get pluses or minuses, right? And I'm a small business person, listen to this right now, right? Wishing I was there so I could throw something at Michael, okay, for creating this another something us small business people have to worry about. But all I have to do is think back on the last 2 or 3 or 4 actions that employees have made. I get to give them pluses or minuses, right? And I can decide whether I have created a positive culture or negative. Am I understanding that correctly?
Absolutely. And that's why it needs to be discussed regularly as well, because the whole point about culture is the vibe of an organization, if you will, right? To talk like a Gen Zer. But at the end of the day, once again, I've said this every time I've been on the show. Companies are still hiring for skills only to fire on behaviors. So at some point, we need to bring those together in the beginning stages of the process so that when we have employees, we can actually measure them on those behaviors. If we're firing them on behaviors that we've never discussed, shame on you as a business owner. And unfortunately, it happens every day. We talked about it a little bit last week.
Yeah, in my world, I tell people if you had to let somebody go, it's a mistake you've made.
Right.
Whether hiring or
Yeah.
training or something.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah, I would agree.
Culture, interesting. Pluses and minuses. I like that.
Or plus minus also.
Or-
Sometimes you might be good to Julie, but sometimes you might not be.
But I bring this up because it is a way for a listener right now to do that measurement.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I know as I'm sitting there talking to you, I can measure the people that I've got working with me, and I can think of 3 or 4 positive things they have done that made me feel good, that their actions were positive. So I'm like, I'm on the right track, correct?
Agreed.
And so that's what you're after. That's what you're asking them to consider.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, Chuck, we might have 2 big heads sitting here.
Hey, you got 3.
Big brains, big brains. Excuse me. Keep saying big head. Okay. Gentlemen, thank you. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to dig into Chuck's book.
Sounds good.
You think you can do this, Michael?
I can.
Okay. He said that, Chuck, like he was ready.
Because I'm going to look at
You
it.
are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. Do it.
#1 live talk business show in North Carolina. Yeah.
Where your business matters. We'll be right back.
I've always wanted to do that. Leadership Squared, and I call it the power of 2. And that's so QWorks is a staffing company. And then the second company is Leadership Squared, which is the power of 2.
Chuck, we're switching.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is just the power of 2. And essentially, the 2 is connection and culture. So, well,
And do it on a regular basis and be able to have that for historical purposes. I think it could add value to the
about it. That wasn't the initial intent, of course. The initial intent was I just got sick and tired of hearing people. I mean, I've been saying this, being in staffing, we've had a lot of people that I've seen get fired, fairly and unfairly. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen people that actually get terminated that don't know why until they're terminated. And they go, well, if you've known this, why haven't you said anything? And that's when they go back to being nice versus being kind. People are afraid to address the behavior because it makes me feel uncomfortable rather than than going ahead and being kind and addressing it directly head on, because then they can correct it.
I've been telling people for years, if the person you're letting go is surprised,
it's awful.
You did something wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. Even in business, a contract, there's a cure period.
Right.
Right.
You gotta give them a chance to correct it. You know?
100%. That's so true.
You got to
Of
give
course,
us some.
it's coming from a guy like me. I probably offend people daily. So, if you let me know, I might back off that.
I mean, just providing feedback. We don't have to wait for our annual review to discuss that.
It's correct. And that's, most people are wrong. They hear about their performance once a year, if at all.
If at all, sure.
Which is horrible.
Okay. All right. This being
Decide
no
where he's going to college?
problem, Jojo. Julie was asking
Football
if we
thing.
say we
Trying to
are
figure it out.
family. That is that a negative when you hear that I consider my employees family?
Some people, that's a great question. A lot of people will say yes, and
Yeah,
there's
you
a
say,
lot
yeah,
to
that's
say
a
no.
bad- I mean, in my family, that might be.
Yeah.
Oh, I just saw that. Yeah, that's great.
You don't want to be in my family.
Well, not to mention, no one ever really buys that, right? I mean, no one buys it. Like,
Right. I know darn well you ain't letting me live in the
But
basement next
correct.
week. I
that's
know
correct.
That's true.
That's correct.
that. Okay. Jojo, where we at? I'm feeling like this is taking forever. Jojo's the worst board operator in the planet. That's his nickname, actually.
Do it.
Yeah. You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina. I am Joe Vagnone, and I am here with my good friend, whether he will admit it or not, Chuck Cooper. He has written another book. It is an exceptional book, Family Business Blueprint, Creating Your Succession Roadmap. I got an early peek at this, didn't I?
You did.
I got the early version of this.
It's been a drawn out process to get the book out, but yes, you got the PDF version
That's
up
right.
front. So
That's right. Okay. Did you make any changes from when you sent
I
it?
did not.
Okay. Okay, Michael, you got a copy as well of this, correct?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So, for those of you that don't know, that is Michael Clegg. He is CEO, managing partner of Q Works Group. He also is a leadership coach, and he is officially a family friend. My brother told me, man, take care of Mike. Don't pick on him.
I appreciate that.
I told him you're an easy guy to pick on.
Yeah, that's what my wife says.
So Chuck, this is what I want to do. First of all, tell everybody what Whitewater Consulting is all about.
So Whitewater Consulting is a company I founded 6 years ago in Charlotte, and we basically are an HR consulting practice. This focuses on serving and supporting small and mid-sized companies. Our clients have helped us really kind of narrow in our areas of focus, which really starts with HR compliance as being one of the key initiatives we help our clients with. The second thing we do is helping them in the area of talent, with talent retention, or talent attraction strategies, retention, and then also talent development. Third thing is helping organizations and business owners understand and really kind of walk them through a process on whether they want to build HR in-house or if they want to look at outsourcing that. And the fourth thing is going to tie into the book is helping them start to create a succession plan.
And stop me if I'm wrong, because it happens every now and then. I mean, not often, but the succession plan that you're speaking of, you do a lot of employee buyouts and manage leverage buyouts with managers and that sort of stuff. Do you do a lot of that? Is that how you got? Because HR and succession plan, they don't seem to run parallel.
So what's really interesting is that the book talking about succession planning is basically working as a way to help us support and bring in the HR and the human capital side. And the way we're able to do that is when you look at the real valuation of a business, most of the value of the company is in their intangibles, not in the tangibles.
Right.
And one of the four key, what we refer to as the four intangibles, is human capital.
And, you know, and Michael was talking about that earlier. And in my world, if the business owner is doing a substantial amount of the work, they'll be beating their chest and telling me how wonderful they are and how hard they work. And the first thing I say to them is, unfortunately, I can't sell that.
Right.
Unless you want to go work for the new owner. No, I'm trying to get out from doing it. Well, then this is an asset. You are an asset that you're not selling.
That's correct.
And so you're saying you can help them make sure that move and that transition is happening.
Correct. We want to help them de-risk their business. And one of those areas to de-risk is to be able to bring people into their organization, raise people up so that they can take on and be empowered to do the work that the business owner is doing today.
So, again, I want people to hear me when I say the book is The Family Business Blueprint, Creating Your Succession Roadmap. As a small business broker, I really enjoyed it. I liked reading it. It was this detailed view of what they should have done before they called me. You know what I mean?
No,
like, is that a
that
fair?
Is very fair. Absolutely.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. If my clients knew what was in this book, I would be having different conversations with them, and they'd understand when I say maximizing value. You just mentioned one way to do that, which is make sure that there's staff in place to continue revenue generating and sales and profit without it being the owner. That's how you maximize that value.
Can the business owner take 3 weeks and go on vacation and let their business operate? What's it going to be like when they come back?
And I tell people that all the time. If you cannot take a month off from your business, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
Not a saleable business.
I mean, that's right. What you have is a nice job, which is okay. I'm not making fun of you.
Right.
You still could be living in a $2 million house. I'm not beating on you. I'm simply saying you haven't created a business. You've created a job for yourself. And then selling your job to somebody else is much harder than if you turn it into a business.
Correct.
And this book is going to help you do that.
It's one, the purpose for the book really was to put a spotlight on the importance of having a succession plan and helping business owners be able to kind of see some of the tools and resources that are available and to kind of give them a high level overview of what a process could be.
And so, Michael, one of the things as he's saying that, I'm looking back on what you just got done saying, which is you need to plan your culture also, right?
Absolutely.
And so these are things that if you'll take a moment to think about and get employees, staff members involved, these things aren't that complicated, right? It's not, Michael, to your list on culture, I can give you a list of things I'd prefer you not do.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, my mom probably.
I'd prefer to show you the things you can do because it's an easier avenue to tackle. But
Michael, you're a better leader than me. You would say that. But the point is, that's not difficult. And Chuck, it's not impossible to say I'd like to be able to sell my business in 5 years so I can do X, Y, Z, right? And so moving in that direction is it's not difficult planning.
It's not difficult. You just have to do it.
It is the action that is difficult.
That's
the mental action.
What the business owners feel like, I mean, what they've told me is they feel like either they don't know where to start in the process, they don't know who a successor would be. The other thing is they feel like there's no, particularly in family-owned businesses, you look at the two spouses, they're not on the same page. The dad, in some cases, says, this is the child that needs the business. And the mom saying, if you do that, you're going to disrupt the entire harmony in our family. So we choose not to do
you've been on the phone. You've been on the phone listening to my conversation. That's like a once a month conversation I have with them. It really is.
With the interviews we did in 2023, where we interviewed over 1,000 businesses that year, just talking about their companies and about succession plans, that we've heard so many stories about that, and just exactly like it.
And
That's
one
crazy.
of the children feels left out, or they didn't get, because it's not as if the business is so big that there's plenty of money to go
Sure.
around, right? You still got to operate it to have value, right? So the one that doesn't know how to operate it, doesn't want to operate it, still wants some benefit from it. And mom wants to take care of it and make sure that she's got that. Meanwhile, the other daughter has been working the business, ready to, and the dad's comfortable. She can take this business over.
Correct.
And here lies the challenges you're describing.
Exactly right. And the other thing is a lot of times, Joe, there has not been the conversation or the communication between the parents and the kids, or between the business owner and their most key employees, about what succession could even look like. There's a lot of assumptions that get made.
So, okay. So one of the things you do in the book, I really liked it. You call them a summary of buyer methods.
Okay.
I call them buyer profiles. And I like what you did, which is you sort of say, these are the different types of, you call them buyer methods. I call them buyer profiles. These are what we need to look at and be prepared, because it's actually buyer motivations. I mean, either it's going to be somebody in the family, it's going to be somebody in management, it's going to be an employee doing some sort of stock option, ESOP plan, financial buyer, somebody from the outside, or a strategic buyer, a larger company wanted to come in. And so you did a really nice job on this chart, which is why I really want people to get this book. You go even further and to talk about what the options look like and what they should consider, the advantages and disadvantages of each one of them. I'd almost think you're a broker doing this. You did good with that chart. I really liked it.
I appreciate it, Joe.
You almost know what you're doing, Chuck, right there.
I want to refer them directly to you.
But the point I'm making is this is really important, because when you say plan, if you know who you want to sell to, for example, I might have a son that wants my business, but I know a strategic buyer would sure like to get into the North Mecklenburg area. So I'm probably going to tell my son, I'm going to sell it for more than I want to sell it to you for, right? I don't want you to buy it at that price. So my plan will be, it's going to be a strategic buyer.
Okay. I mean, but again, that you're in the seat there, Joe, where you get to make the decision there as a business owner.
Right.
And having options and understanding what those options are is what's important.
And your book is teaching me how to have that conversation to get started. So let's take a break. When we come back, I pulled out a couple of pages, and I want to talk about some of those.
Great.
Can we do that?
Absolutely.
And maybe if Michael can keep up, we'll let him in on that.
I like it.
All right.
Now, if you want, I'll let you sing a song.
Absolutely not. I'm done singing. Not on this show.
You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, where your business matters. This is the #1 live talk business show we've been doing for 11 years. We have well over 911 interviews over the years. Now we're going to have to tick that up by 2 more. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be right back. She says, get Chuck's book. You got the whole Amazon thing all taken care of for you.
Julie's awesome.
So I want to go over these 15 personalizing your success plan, but we can't bore people as we're doing it, right?
Correct.
You know what I mean?
So pick out something that you want to just really focus in on. Yeah, we don't want to bore them for sure.
One of the things I do want to talk to you about, Chuck, let's make sure we talk about it. You really push the fact that I should talk to my employees. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. It's the last thing we recommend as a broker is to get employees involved, because it gives them leverage. You know what I mean?
Well, it depends on when you.
But what you're describing is a conversation way in advance of an actual transaction.
I think
So they're more comfortable with that.
well, maybe it depends on the culture of the company.
Right.
So when you have
let's
that.
talk about that. Like
Okay.
that's kind of because for a broker or a business owner, that's a really scary point.
Okay.
Is to have this conversation. But I see how healthy it could be, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's this catch-22. Gosh, I'm not sure if I want to do that, but
Why?
it makes a whole lot of sense.
I think a lot of it depends on the relationship.
And it only works if I've been having detailed conversations
Along the
for
way.
years. If all of a sudden I say, I'm thinking about maybe selling. What you think about that? I mean, I'm gonna get shot. That's a lifetime. Nobody likes him. Nobody likes him. He's got no friends. Yeah. You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina. I'm here with Michael Clegg. He is CEO and managing partner of QWorks Group. He is a master at leadership coaching. Also, I'm here with Chuck Cooper. He is the author and president of Whitewater Consulting. His new book is The Family Business Blueprint, Creating Your Succession Roadmap. I really recommend that you get this. If you go to the tubes, Julie's got the link that you can get on it and buy the book. It's just great. Chuck, at break, Michael was respectfully being quiet as I was picking on you. Yeah. Michael might be the only person I've ever met that actually deliberately can create a business culture. You know, I've met very few small business people that could do what he's suggesting we need to do. You understand that, don't you? I think Michael could do it.
I think he can do it, and I think business owners should call him and talk to him about
I
it.
agree.
I double that agree.
I absolutely. So that, Michael, if they wanted to reach you, how could they reach you, buddy?
Yeah. They can go to mclegg at qworksgroup.com or on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to catch me probably.
Okay. So while I was picking on you during the break, Chuck, one of the things that came up, I wanted to talk to you about, your book suggests that I need to talk to my employees and staff and in some cases, maybe even suppliers and or vendors about what a succession would look like. And I get it. I understand the statement, but I was thinking, Chuck, you got to be crazy. Like I you know, back when I had a lot of restaurants, I probably had about 180 employees. I couldn't imagine letting any of them think I was going to sell the business. Their mental security and literally their livelihood was based on what they were doing at that moment, and the thought that that could change would freak them out to the point that it would just be something that it would mass people leaving. So walk me through what you're actually saying. Am I interpreting this correctly?
You are, and the reason that I think that is, you mentioned earlier, that as business owners, we're getting older. You have to know that your employees are thinking the same thing. My owner, the owner of the company where I work, is getting older. They have to be thinking about succession. There is going to be a transition or transaction that's going to take place. So from my seat as a consultant or as an owner, I want my people who are my greatest asset to be able to be in the loop on where we're going to be going, not today, but over the next 3 years, next 5 years. This is kind of our roadmap.
Don't worry, even though I forget your name and you could tell I'm getting a little bit older and starting to look and talk like Biden, don't worry about it because you're saying we're going to put together what a good buyer will look like. So you'll be part of what will happen. Am I getting this correctly?
You're going down the right path, yes.
Okay. So I got to do that way in advance, though.
Sure. I mean, part of this goes back, and I think 2020 is kind of a delineation point where a lot of the world changed in the way we talk about culture,
Sure.
the way we talk about leadership. It changed at that point, and I think where we are today, as we look at our employees and the way that we see them as being an asset, something that we invest in. I think we have to be able to bring them in and not necessarily treat them as family. Yeah, but make them feel like they are being seen and they're being heard.
Sure, valued.
And they're being valued.
Okay. So that value, if it's done early enough, I think I could see it as a positive. If it's too close to the transaction, it could turn into leverage that in my world is a problem.
Yeah.
That's the reason for my seat. I'm wanting to get my clients to be able to be thinking about this about 3 to 5 years in advance.
Because if not, what you're describing turns into leverage for the employee and creates pressure on the value of the business.
One of the reports I saw, this goes back a few months ago, Joe, showed the number of small businesses that were being sold in the U.S. and how much time business owners had actually been spending on preparing their company for sale. And the significant number of those was 0 to less than a year.
I was going to say, keep it now. My area of expertise is 5 million in gross sales on down, right? Very few of them think about it till they go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you need surgery. You're going to be out for 3 months. And they're thinking, that's when they call me and say, I need you to sell this before surgery. Yeah,
yes.
That's right.
Wow.
That's the worst phone call you can really get.
Oh, yeah, it really is. There's some challenging conversations that I have with people. And so I'm quickly trying to put their business, advising them to put their business in a manner in which there is value and they can operate it from the hospital, but they're still going to be making phone calls from the hospital the way they've set it up.
So one of the businesses, and I'll just share the story with you real quick. There's one of the owners I talked to in 2023 told me that when I talked to him initially, he said, I don't have a succession plan. I know I need one. I'm in my busiest time of the year. Call me in January. We talk in January, and he said, I should have started this a long time ago. I've got stage 3 cancer at this point.
Yeah.
And he said, what do I do? I said, I'll tell you what, we're going to start next week. We're going to start every week doing virtual calls. And at that point, we're going to work through this process, depending on your health. We go from February to August of last year, and we got to mid-August, and he called and he said, papers are signed, everything's done. At the first time in a long time, I feel really good about where I'm at, and I'm at peace.
Wow.
Yeah.
7 days later, calls me back to thank me one more time, says I'm going to hospice. 10 days later, his wife calls, and he had passed. And she said, you have no idea the work that got done in these last few months, how much it has impacted our family.
Yeah. And in her case, it impacted her financially big time.
Absolutely. Oh, my gosh. For her and her kids.
So you've got a list of 15 things to help personalize your succession. No, we're not going to have time to go over all 15. But the book is great, and you need to do it. But here's one that I find. How will you transfer your knowledge and experience to your successor? If that one statement, if you'll think about that, instead of saying, because you understand most of my clients think there's no way they can transfer their 37 years of knowledge. Nobody can do what I can do, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But the truth is that it can happen. No, not exactly.
Right.
No, not as good. But I bet with the automation in the world and the this in the world and the that in the world, and you find a Julie, next thing you know, the business is running just as good, if not better. Not exactly the same way.
Sure.
And so this question...
And it probably shouldn't run the same way, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You need to move it forward. Yep. So talk about that for just a minute, because you're asking them to ask the question, how do I transfer what I have been doing for 37 years? Because they're going to tell you, I don't know and don't know if I can.
But again, what this comes down to, it takes time for them to do this. And it also causes them to be very introspective and to start to write down and make notes of what is it that I've done over this journey? What have I learned? What are my systems today? What are my processes today that I do? So that you can have all of that down so that when that transition does happen, it's a repeatable process.
Right.
But I think, so systems and processes is one area, but that knowledge, who your clients are, the relationships you have with them, your vendors, how you got started with them, being able just to write it almost like an autobiography of your life in your business world. Okay,
so I got another one for you right here. This one like curls my toes, you understand. Reading your book is not easy. Like it makes you
challenge.
take a good look at what you're doing and how you're.
Chuck, I
treating
don't know
things.
if the toe curling is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what Joe says next.
Curl, I tell you, curl.
Girl.
Are your key employees comfortable with your plans for business? And it curls my toes to think I got to have a conversation with employees. I mean, Mike, walk me through that, because if I got this great culture, they're happy as they can be. Joe's just a man, right? Life is good. And now I come to you and say, I'm planning for not to be here. And you're asking me to take in consideration what they think about this. Am I missing something? Because my toes are curling.
There's one thing I want to ask there, though, also, because in what I heard through the last just quick segment was I think it was a big assumption that person was going to be internal. A succession plan, certainly, it'd be great and ideal if that were the case, but I don't know what the percentages are. It's not my area of expertise, but just in being a part of seeing other businesses, oftentimes that person comes from outside. So,
but in my world, that's even scarier.
I would imagine, which probably brings to Chuck's point of why you have to write that autobiography 3 to 5 years in advance, because really, if you have the process in place, then everything else falls. Finding the right person certainly is always the toughest in any, whether it's succession planning or just filling a role.
Right.
But if you have the process in place first, it makes that much easier on whomever is coming in.
Yeah, my thought process is, when you look at that, is most business owners are being very, very reactive through this process. But if you can flip that mindset to be proactive and just think about how a buyer would approach, or how would they value your business if they called you today and said, Joe, I want to buy your business. And you said, here's my list of things that I need. And you're able to very quickly just send them the documents.
Oh, now see, all of a sudden, Chuck's big brain steps into action here.
Makes sense.
Because I tell this to clients all the time. Before we list the business, let's present the opportunity to key employees if they're interested, and we do give them a list of qualifications that they need. What happens is they either qualify themselves or they don't qualify themselves, so that we aren't the ones telling them what they can and cannot do. So Big Brain Chuck is onto something there.
It is. I think that process, Mac Lackey, who's a very successful entrepreneur in Charlotte, he's the one that taught me and really showed me how that process worked. And I think there's so much value in that. Just being prepared. Again, from a personal side, with my wife and with my kids and my son-in-laws, my daughter-in-law, I give them a letter on an annual basis that outlines, these are where our assets are. These are the passwords. This is how you get into the information. So that something happens, there's a plan in place.
Oh my gosh, he just said something, passwords. I don't even know how to get to my own personal checking account. My wife takes care of it. That simplicity of stuff, I couldn't do.
But that's where I think we've got to get to. We've got to help people get there.
Agreed.
You the man, buddy. You the man. Please buy this book. It is exceptional. Chuck Cooper, The Family Business Blueprint, Creating Your Succession Roadmap. If it's Monday afternoon, you're